Hello friends and welcome you all to the channel and to another episode on beginner basics, tips and tricks. For today's video I will be explaining you the tips on how to play jungle like a skilled player even as a beginner. So this video is the continuation and the episode 2 of this video. So if you haven't watched this one yet, do check it out guys. So first let us start with the details of the 3 monsters of the jungle and how can you use them to your advantage, which I left over in the last video. The Tyrant, the Overlord and the Tempest Dragon are the 3 main epic monsters of the jungle. The Tempest Dragon is the final showdown monster because most of the time the winner will be decided on the criteria of whoever gets it. I will go with monsters, not the epic monsters. Okay, it will be easy for you to get it. So first let us discuss about the Tyrant and the Overlord and their strategy. So first, Tyrant and Overlord will spawn after the timer hits 4 minutes, so both of them will spawn at a time. Okay, the Tyrant will spawn in the monster camp near to the farm lane and the Overlord will spawn in the monster camp near the clash lane. Now let us see what are the benefits if you kill any one of these. So if you kill a Tyrant, you and your teammates will get an additional damage buff. And how it works? Yep, let me explain. If you have the Tyrant buff and you attack an enemy, a chain lightning is produced and deal additional magic damage to the enemies, and this chain lightning can hit up to a maximum of 3 targets. The targets should be pretty close, otherwise the lightning won't hit further, and this effect certainly has a cooldown which is 3 seconds. So the chain lightning can be triggered every 3 seconds. Okay, with this buff you will also get a debuff. If there is a good, there will be bad, right? So I will explain it to you after the Overlord details. Now if you kill the Overlord, your team's next 2 minion waves on all 3 lanes will replaced by the Overlord vanguards. So normally you will have minions in the lane, right? So when you kill Overlord, they will be switched with 1 vanguard for each lane for the next 2 minion spawns. Are these vanguards special? Yeah, kinda. These Overlord vanguards are very good on destroying towers. Added to that, they have additional 50% damage reduction against the towers. Pretty cool, right? Now the debuff I told you before. So if you kill any one of these monsters, your team will gain a debuff. So what it does is, if you try to attack the next monster, Tyrant or Overlord, then you will deal only 50% of the damage and you will take more damage from the monster itself if you try to attack them during the next 90 seconds. So better you shouldn't try to take the next monster on your own, but you can get help from your teammates as the early game monsters are pretty weak, so it's not gonna deal much damage. Also, there is another way to get it, but it would be a little risky though. The way is getting these 2 simultaneously. So if your team have the upper hand or kill some of the enemy heroes, then if your team cooperates, then you can attack one monster and ask your teammates, preferably your farm laner, to attack the other monster. So now you can manage the timing and make the finishing blow to both the monsters at the same time. Now to the most important part, listen carefully guys. All the things I mentioned will be yours only if you get to kill the monster with a final blow, or if the enemy kills it, then they will get everything. So normally if your team is trying to get the Tyrant or the Overlord, but the enemies are scouting you, and if they manage to make the last killing blow to the monster, all your efforts will be a waste and they would successfully steal the monster from you. So if you don't want this to happen, then you should follow these steps. If you are attacking the monsters alone, make sure you can see all the enemies on the minimap or try to guess their location. Always make sure that you have the smite when you attack the monsters. It will come in handy because smite can deal around 2.5k damage to a monster, but the hero's attack or abilities can't do that much in a single blow. So make sure to keep it for the last second so that that the probability of you getting the monsters would be maximum. Also, if you are trying to get the monster alone, 2 or 3 enemies trying to attack you, just abandon it and run, because if you die there and they also get the buff, so it will be like totally drawback to you, so they will get the double benefits. So be careful about it, and if your teammates are nearby, then you can just try to engage with your teammates. So when to attack these monsters and how to strategize. So if you are planning to go for the towers, then try to get the overlord, and if you are trying to win a team fight and take towers or invade jungle and more, you can just go with the tyrant. Also, I forgot to mention you, when you kill monsters, it will also provide you with XP and gold for you and your entire team. So make sure to kill these monsters occasionally to get more gold than the enemy team. So once these monsters are killed, they will respawn after 4 minutes, and there will be a cooldown shown in the mini map near the camp of the monster before it spawns. Now if you rotate to any of the lanes, either the farm lane or the clash lane, if you get a chance, always try to get the monsters when you get the chance. Okay, now after 10 minutes into the match, the monsters tyrant and overlord will be evolved into more powerful monsters, which will be the shadow tyrant and the shadow overlord. The difference between the normal monsters and these evolved shadow monsters are the buffs you get from these evolved monsters will be more powerful than the ones you got from the normal monsters. So if you kill the shadow tyrant, you will gain the buff which will deal more magic damage with the chain lightning, and the targets are the same, by the way. Added to that, you will gain an additional movement speed of 10% and 5% more when you are out of combat. So friends, if you need a detailed explanation on out of combat and in combat, then check out this video at the part I mentioned below. Now if you kill the shadow overlord, it will spawn the same overlord vanguards, but it will be a little bit more powerful than the normal vanguard. Added to that, the hero who deals the final blow to make the kill will gain an active skill, which you can see near your HP bar. If you use it, it will spawn one shadow vanguard. Guys, remember this, shadow vanguard, not overlord vanguard, both are different. So in the selected lane, yes, you can spawn as you wish. Also remember this active skill will be yours for the next 60 seconds, and after that it will automatically summon the beast. If you don't summon the shadow vanguard, or if you are dead, you are unable to summon it, then it will automatically spawn the shadow vanguard to the nearest lane you are at that moment. The shadow vanguard is more powerful compared to the overlord vanguard. There are some additional effects when you spawn the shadow vanguard. So when you summon it, there will be an animation of a shadow which sweeps down the lane you have selected from the crystal to the opponent crystal. It deals a fixed damage of 10,000 to the enemy minions which are in that lane. It is basically enough to clear every minion before 20 minutes, unless if you lost the high ground tower and the armored minions are spawned. Okay, so if the minions are killed, the gold earned would be 150% of the usual gold and will be equally divided among you and your teammates and will be given to you. This shadow leaves a shadow path in that lane. Okay, so it will be there for the next 60 seconds. During that time, the teammates and the overlord vanguards that are in this shadow path will gain 10% damage immunity or damage reduction, and they will deal 10% more damage to the structures, possibly the towers and the crystal. The shadow vanguard has a high attack speed and more health than that of the overlord vanguards. Other earnings are your team as usual. You will get additional XP and gold for your entire team. Okay, as you have guessed, the debuff is also a bit stronger than before. So you will deal 60% less damage to other shadow monsters and will take much more damage from them too for the next 90 seconds. So don't take it carelessly, guys, because after the 10 minutes the monsters will be so strong and it can deal a lot of damage to you. So even with your team it will be a little bit hard to get these with that debuff. These shadow monsters will respawn 30 seconds quicker than the normal monsters, so use them wisely, friend. Now if you have got the shadow overlord, you can use the shadow vanguard in some naughty ways to put more pressure on the enemy team. First one, if you find the enemies pushing one lane and taking their minions to attack your towers, and when it gets near the tower, if you spawn the shadow vanguard, it will sweep all the minions and the enemies will be wanting to kill you and send you to hell. Yeah, for sure. The next is, if you are fighting far away and there are a lot of minions in one lane and have to clear it without getting there, yep, you can use the shadow vanguard. Then there is this, when the overlord vanguard spawn at the crystal, at the exact same time you can spawn the shadow vanguard, and both the vanguards will be holding hands and reaching the enemy towers and can easily take the towers. Also try to use the shadow path effect to your advantages, like if you are going to fight in a lane, then use the shadow vanguard to get the shadow effect on that lane, so that the possibility of you and your teammates winning would be so high. During this time of the match, if you get one of the monsters, then try to forbid the enemies from getting the another, or try to steal it from them if possible, or you can try the strategy I have mentioned before to get both the monsters at the same time with the before the debuff kicks in. Now let me tell you which monster is good at which time. In the early games, in my opinion, the tyrant would be a good choice as it gives additional damage, so it will be useful when you take a team fight and can farm faster, like more faster, and your team can build faster in the early games. Then after 10 minutes, after the arrival of the shadow monsters, I would prefer going for the shadow overlord, would be a good option. So now you are well built and you can now push towers and take down the enemy crystal. If the enemies got it, unfortunately, then try to get the shadow tyrant. So the point is the enemies will try to push it with the help of the shadow vanguard, right? So the tyrant buff will come in handy in defending the push. If you can't get both, try to at least get one of these monsters. If you allow the enemies to get both of them, then the tides will end up in their favor. Then winning would be so hard for your team. When you start playing as a jungler for some time, then you will get a better idea of how and when to use all these strategies. Now coming to the final showdown boss monster, the arrival of the Tempest Dragon, which will spawn after 20 minutes into the game. You can see this creature only if you are so lucky and blessed with the teammates and the enemies with half brain cells like me. So when you reach 20 minutes into the game, both the monsters, the shadow tyrant and the shadow overlord will disappear, and the Tempest Dragon will appear randomly in any one of the monster camps. So let me explain. The first spawn is completely random. After that, the Tempest Dragon will respawn after 3 minutes. Okay, so and it will spawn in the opposite camp. Okay, let me put it in a much simpler way. Basically, if the dragon spawns first in the overlord camp, then during the respawn it will spawn in the tyrant camp, and this process will repeat until the match ends. When the Tempest Dragon appears, you can see the storm, thunder and lightning throughout the entire map. If you kill the Tempest Dragon, what will you get? Okay, that's the question, and here's the answer. The minions will be replaced with Tempest Vanguards, guys. Tempest Vanguards, which are far more powerful than the Overlord and Shadow Vanguard. Okay, Tempest Vanguards have the ability to disrupt a tower on the first attack, which will make the towers unable to do any attacks for the next 5 seconds. Added to that, you and your teammates will gain a lightning buff, which will automatically deal true damage. Okay, true damage to the nearby enemies and targets. So it will deal the true damage equal to 5% of the target's maximum health. Okay, believe me friends, that's a lot. So also you will get a blessing which grants you a shield that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your own max HP. This effect refreshes each time when you get out of the combat. That's cool, right? Let me tell you more cooler thing than this. starting 20 minutes, the strength of this shield, that shield I explained right now, right? So this shield will increase by 1.5 percentage every 30 seconds. So exactly at 30 minutes into the game, you will gain a shield which will absorb damage up to 50 percentage of your max health. It is pretty incredible, right? If you get the Tempest Dragon, that is. So make sure to secure the Tempest Dragon to your side or you will suffer the consequences. Even the god can't save you after that. Forgot to mention you about this, guys. If you are the unluckiest person in the world like me, then there is a chance the monsters will use their ultimates at the perfect last second. This ultimate can stun you if you are in range. This time is so crucial, guys, because if you got stunned at the last second, the enemies can steal the monster easy peasy. So be very careful on this time. Also friends, keep this in mind. Don't try to get the shadow monsters at the last minute because the debuff will be active even for the Tempest Dragon. So be careful not to give the enemies a silly advantage. Now I hope you all understand why these monster boys are much more important in your jungle journey, and I will explain you the other two things I mentioned in the first episode in the next episode. So I hope you all learned something from this video, and if you did, just hit the like button to support me and also subscribe to the channel to support me furthermore, and also share this video with your friends and the teammates who are all in need of this video. See you all guys in the next video. Until then, bye bye and have a great day. As usual, thank you for watching. This is Seronix signing off. Bye bye.